Hello and welcome to Outside is Overrated Game Club. In this monthly segment, we play a game with our community and we invite our Patreon supporters to join the discussion. If you want to join in the fun, support Outside is Overrated on Patreon at www.patreon.com/OiO. You can help for as little as $2 a month. Outside is Overrated is supported by, or is sponsored by Premier Health. Check out their website at premierhealthmn.com. That's premierhealthmn.com. I'm your host, Tom Sidlogic, and we've got a full bunk bed for the discussion today with Hobbybox Joe Burns.
Heyo.
Dr. C. Casey Aline.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Jimothy the Witch Fitzgerald.
Hey, you came up with a nickname for me. All right. Hey.
And Mrs. OiO, Phoenix and Logic.
Hello.
We're going to jump right into it here. Burnsy, we've talked Diablo on the show before. I am well established as a Diablo nut. You're slightly less obsessive about the franchise than I am, but you've played quite a bit of Diablo 2 and 3. What were you looking forward to with D4?
Yeah, I mean, I've played all the Diablo games, as long as you're not counting Immortal as a Diablo game, the phone version. But I've played a good amount of the other ones. I've beaten 1 and 2 way long ago. I don't think I ever finished 3. We got close, but I don't think we ever finished it. But for me, I enjoy the games a lot, and it's typically something, though, that I get into for like a few weeks, really hardcore into it, and then basically drop off of it after that and never touch it again unless there's some like pressing reason to do so. But I do enjoy the games a lot.
Yeah, it's a killer franchise. Jimmer, we met when I was at the height of my Diablo 2 craze, but for the life of me, I can't recall what your affinity for the franchise is. I know that if I remember correctly, you loved 3 and you hated 4 with a burning fiery passion.
Exactly right. I started with 1, loved it. I played it way too much. 2, I never had a computer powerful enough to handle it when it was new. So, like, I beat it, but barely, poorly. 3 played the crap out of, and then 4 played on release.
Yeah, I remember playing 2 on my roommate's computer, because I also didn't have a computer that was beefy enough to handle it at the time. And then my roommate just suddenly moved out one day, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess I don't play Diablo anymore.
So Jim didn't have a computer powerful enough to play Diablo 2 on release, but Pat didn't have a computer powerful enough to play Diablo 2 Resurrected on release, which I think is just an interesting commingling of things.
Yeah, and unfortunately they didn't port it to the Wii, so he was just left out in the dark. Phoenix, Diablo 3 is your favorite video game, period, and you haven't played any other game in the series. What were your hopes and fears going into 4?
I was hoping that it was going to be very similar to D3 as far as, I don't know, I latched onto it. I enjoyed it. It was very...
You're speaking about 3 right now.
Sorry, yeah, 3. I really enjoyed it because you introduced it to me, and I felt like I could handle it because I haven't played a lot of games like this before, so it was kind of nice to be able to jump into a game that seemed like a big boy game. D3 was to me when we played it, and I was able to play it, and it felt fun, and it seemed relatively easy and doing everything. So I was hoping 4 was going to be the same experience for me. And so that's what I was looking for. So
we fire it up and you see that there's 5 new characters to choose from. What kind of reaction did you have to the character selection?
Dread. Because there was no monk. I loved the monk in D3 and there was no monk and I didn't know who to choose. I know we started playing characters in D3 and I tried the barbarian, but the monk for me had more of a fluidity that I enjoyed. And so I tried the druid because I've heard people bashing the druid was never strong enough for people, and so I thought, hey, I'll give it a try. And I love being in the middle of the fight and fighting right in the middle of everything. I hate ranged. I can't handle shooting bow and arrows. It's just not my strong suit, so I have to be in the middle of everything.
So you heard people trashing the druid for not being powerful enough. Then we go to the other end of the min-max spectrum, and Casey, you've never played a video game before. What did you expect when the Xbox just magically turned on and started flashing the bright and pretty colors at you?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really sure what to expect. You know, never played a video game before, and I've really never played Diablo. And but for real, like I not only have I never played Diablo, I've never seen any online content for Diablo, so I wasn't sure what to expect. I didn't even know it was a top-down. I knew it was RPG, but had no idea what I was getting into at all.
Well, let's set some expectations for what this part 1 discussion of Diablo 4 is going to cover. We're going to talk about character creation, our thoughts on the moment-to-moment action, single versus multiplayer. We're going to talk some spoiler-free impressions of the story. We're going to give our thoughts on builds, and we're going to talk about upgrades. What we're not going to cover in this episode is any story spoilers, endgame content, or endgame content. So those are the ground rules that we're working on. If you're looking for that spoiler and endgame discussion, that'll be in our part 2 discussion next month. But starting with Diablo 4 characters, it has 5 to choose from: the Barbarian, Sorcerer, Necromancer, Rogue, and Druid. Phoenix, how did you approach Diablo games, and which one of these characters felt like the best fit for your playstyle?
Again, I heard online that the Druid was, being bashed a bit, so I thought I'd give it a try. Plus, it was close combat style, and I've always was intrigued with Druid history, the animal, the earth, connectiveness with the Druids. So I was leaning towards that because of that, and it looked cool with the shape-shifting options that you had with the werebear and the werewolf, so I thought I'd give it a try. So.
And to put words in your mouth, you like to jump right in the middle and hit somebody.
I do.
Does the Druid scratch that itch?
It does. It's not as... I hate to keep going back to the monk, but I love the monk because I could use two-handed weapons. The Druid, a weapon in each hand, where the Druid I keep picking up two-handed weapons. I wish I could find ones where I can put one in each hand, but it's been good. I've been enjoying it, and the skill tree has been a little complex for me, but I like that close combat, being in the middle of it and fighting and hitting hard. So the shape-shifting has really helped me sort of use other bags of tricks with the Druid, so...
Sure, and you mentioned that you tried the Barbarian in D3 and it just didn't click. Bernsey, you've been playing a Barbarian a bit in Diablo 4. How did that fit your personal playstyle?
Yeah, so, it used to be, whenever I played a Diablo game, and I'm pretty sure this was even the same with, Diablo 3, when I first played it too, I would always be the Barbarian, and that was it. I don't think I really ever played too much else of other classes. I maybe messed around with the Necromancer in D3 when it came out, and then I played, I think, a little bit of the Witch Doctor, possibly, but I didn't play a lot of it. It was mostly Barbarian. So when I started messing around with D4, and because we were doing some different things when we played D2 for the podcast, I decided I was going to actually play a mage because I hadn't played a wizard or a caster character ever in any of these games. So I played that and liked that a lot in D2. So then that's what I kind of rolled with my first character in Diablo 4, as well as when I played the beta and the demo and all that stuff leading up to launch. But then when we were playing in a group, it didn't make sense for us to double up on classes, and I didn't want to play the same class that I've been playing on when I've been going through solo. So that's what I ended up going with the Barbarian again, and that's been fun to mess around with. Phoenix, if you want to have lots of weapons, the Barbarian has 4 weapons that they have on them, depending upon what different attacks. They have 2 single, and each different attack they do use different weapons, and I don't know. I don't even know how someone could switch between all those weapons and hit things, but they must be skilled. Their rage fuels their ability to grab weapons fast and hit things with them, so...
I always find that fascinating with Diablo, because I haven't played a lot of games. You guys have, but,
Well, not Casey.
I was amazed playing Diablo 3 and 4, just the different feel that characters have when you play, because with the monk, I fell into it, felt comfortable with it in D3. Playing the Barbarian, I had a little bit more trouble trying to get my hands wrapped around it. And even with the Druid, I'm still trying to get comfortable with the character. And it's kind of interesting. You think it's just a computer character that you're controlling. Why should there be a difference of, so I find it very fascinating how they can make it feel different when you're playing a different character each time. So,
well, someone who's...
I will say, when I was playing after the final beta finished for Diablo 4, I reinstalled and played a little bit of Diablo 3, and it surprised me just how drastically different Diablo 3 is from just a gameplay feel perspective, and then your level up perspective as well. It's just a very different game, which it's been so long since I had played it that wasn't super present in my mind. So that was interesting to get that understanding. So I can clearly understand why you would see that it would control very differently between the games.
Yeah.
Yeah, we played a fair amount of 3, getting ready for 4 to relaunch. Jim, you beat 3. You've completed 4 as well. How did you approach your character selection?
So at release, I swapped between sorcerer and druid. Sorcerer, wizard, whatever, in class, and a druid. And I kind of bounced back and forth between the two, finally settling on the druid. Bit of a regret. For me, druid wasn't in 3. And like Phoenix said, I wanted to play around with the shape shifting, see what it had to offer. It seemed like it would be a cool class. So I went with that one. I liked my sorcerer more on the recent plays. I've been going back to the sorcerer and really enjoying it, which you can play as melee and just jump in there and explode things, and it's a lot of fun.
So you've been dumping on this game, criticizing me when I was toting it as Game of the Year last year, and it's just because you didn't like the character that you were playing and another character fixed all those issues?
No, I have my reasons for not liking it. I will give it, in my experience, Diablo games, they start off worse than their predecessor, and then they come out with patches and updates, and then they start making the game better. D3 was not good on release either. So I'm holding out hope that they make improvements, but I got my reasons for disliking 4 more than 3.
Yeah, I hated 3 with the burning fiery passion when it came out. Sorry, Burns.
No, that's fine. And just for a context for people that are listening, we're recording this pretty much at the tail end of Season 2, right before Season 3 releases. And so if that drastically changes everything that we say when the next season comes out, that's why we sound like we're crazy. But we probably are crazy anyway.
Disagree vehemently. Casey? Oh, go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say, you guys made me and my wife hop back in and try again. Why not? And she's having a lot of fun, but then I looked at it when I log in, and it's Season 2 ends in 8 days. I'm we're not even going to reach, the end game, and we're going to lose our character because the season's over. So Season 3 it is. We're doing it again.
Can't wait. At least you can skip the story in future seasons. Casey, you mentioned that you'd never played a Diablo game before. How did you end up with the Necromancer, and how well does that fit the way you like to approach games?
Yeah, since I've never played a Diablo game before, I just pretty much let the internet decide for me.
Which is the perfect way to live life, right?
Yeah, it is for me. We've kind of discussed this in past shows where I don't like to waste time with things, so when I'm creating a character, I wanted to make sure it was going to be the right fit beforehand. So I didn't really want to mess around playing for a few hours with every character just to see how it fit. So I just researched all the characters and decided to go with the one that I felt was going to be the best fit for me, which ended up being the Necromancer. And normally I have an affiliation for tanks, though the Barbarian seemed like it would have been a good fit, but the Necromancer, you're able to play it like a tank. You're able to get right into the mix and rush mobs, and you don't have to stand back. You can if you want. There's different ways to play it, but the way that I chose to play it is more of a tanky Necromancer, where you just go in and you're just slashing and carving up bodies, creating corpses, and then you just explode all the corpses and do a whole bunch of damage. And it just, commanding an army of the dead sounded really cool. So that's what I decided to go with.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just want to establish my own Diablo cred here. I like messing with a bunch of different classes. I beat D1 as all 3 of the classes. Excuse me. D2, my best character was a paladin. D3, it was a crusader. And D4, knowing that Phoenix wants to be in the action, I looked at range in my first character, and my most advanced character is a rogue. As far as the moment-to-moment gameplay, when you start tearing around Sanctuary, you have a lot of freedom for what you can do. You can jump into Acts 1, 2, or 3 of the story, clear optional dungeons, jump into micro-dungeons, conquer strongholds, gather a boatload of side quests, or explore the wilderness for altars that boost all of your characters. No matter which direction you move in, you'll cut through swarms of demon fodder, elite units, and bosses. Casey, where did you enjoy spending your time most in Diablo 4?
Running around the map and exploring, I would say, are the most fun parts. And I could just do that for hours and hours and hours. And that's really kind of what I did in the very beginning, but then I wasn't getting any of the story, and the story was really intriguing. So you kind of have to figure out, like, okay, well, do I just continue to explore and jump into all the different parts of the maps and keep doing all these side quests, keep popping up and keep jumping into all these bosses, or do I try to mainline the story as much as I can and drop a pin and just go from dungeon to dungeon, which is essentially what I ended up doing kind of at the end here. But like, I still get distracted. Like, I'll drop a pin and I'll run by and I'm like, ooh, shiny, like I have to run up there and see what this is real quick. And that's like, I don't know, the exploration and getting the different parts of the map is still like what I enjoy the most about. But yeah, it's kind of, it is weird. Like, you have to find that balance while you're playing the game, or you're never going to get through the main story.
Jimmer, did you have a response there?
Yeah, I just want to throw on my Tom Interrogator pants. Casey, since you've never played Diablo before, but you're saying you're like into the lore of D4, like, do you know what happened in D1 through 3? Not at all?
No idea. I know there's something with Astaroth that obviously happened, but I have no clue what the heck is going on.
Yeah, I'll summarize it. Like, Diablo goes into a soulstone, goes into your character's head, then a bunch of shit happens into, oh man, what time is it? 1712. Then a bunch of stuff happens in 3, and the witch doctor throws a bunch of frogs out at the end.
You're going to go back and edit that?
Yeah, I'm going to have to bleep that one out.
I've played all of the Diablo games. I never finished 3. I think we finished the main game of 3, but I don't know that we finished like the Reaper of Souls, the extra content, the expansion. Honestly, I couldn't tell you what the story was of any of the Diablo games, to be honest. Like, I like the story in them when I'm going through them, but then again, I'm mostly playing the games multiplayer, and it's so hard to latch onto what's going on with that, I think, when you're playing that way. So that makes it difficult.
Yeah, I agree. And like, I've devoured all of these games as a single player in groups, and like, I still can't give you a comprehensive through line except that Decker Kane identified a metric crapload of items for me.
And that's the thing I miss most in this D4 is Deckert. I almost got Tom for Christmas a t-shirt that said Deckert Records with the logo, And I do miss having Deckert talking while we explored the dungeons in D3.
Stay a while and listen.
Yes.
Casey, did we let you finish your point, or did we cut you off?
Oh, that was it.
Awesome. Well, Bernsey, how did you enjoy spending your moment-to-moment action in Sanctuary?
Yeah, so Diablo, for me, it was always, all the other Diablo games have always been, all right, where's the point I have to go for the story quest now? And whatever like map I go onto, you got to go around. You basically lawn mow it. You go up and down, you find the edges, and then you like make sure that the entire map gets cleared off. And then you just sort of work your way through that. You get to a dungeon, you do the same thing. The interesting thing about Diablo 4 is that I feel like there's a lot more in the overworld map, especially, that you have to be able to, that actually like incentivizes you to explore. Like, you'll find little nooks and crannies in the world that'll like lead to a little area, and then that'll be like, there'll be an altar of Lilith there, which will give you some sort of a boost to all of your characters that you utilize, which is like an interesting thing, or you'll find a dungeon, or you'll find a world event that's going on, and so it's just all of these different things that you can stumble across, or like nooks in the map that you can find. Whereas, especially we've been like the one I played most recently is D2, and so that it's just like, okay, you find what the rectangle is, you find the edges, and you go all the way through. Maybe you'll find something somewhat interesting. It's usually just, oh, there's an altar of this over here. That's cool. And that's about it. But here it's just like there's actual interesting things to find within it. And so I think that's been helpful. But yeah, I think the tricky thing, like Casey had said, is without it like kind of really forcing you into the main story, you just lose track of it, and you wander around and do all sorts of things. Like he said, you go chase this shiny thing, and then oh yeah, I'm level 20 and I haven't even gotten to Act 2 yet. And so it's crazy.
You can ask Jim next.
Oh yeah, I just think that the point that you just said there, like I just hit level 45 today and I haven't finished Act 2 because of how much stuff that I've done in the beginning.
Well, Phoenix, I think it's fair to say that we've taken a more focused approach here, right? Like we just mainline the story and like we're in the end game content. Is that how we're approaching this game?
You want to sell it that hard, don't you? No. Well, it's just I was expecting D3, like you guys talked about. I guess Joey explained. You are sort of streamlined into a storyline, and you just go through that story, clearing the map, but it keeps plodding you along with the main story. So that's what I was expecting. And then all of a sudden, the whole map just kind of opened up. I'm like, oh my goodness, what have I gotten into?
And here's a giant list of things that you can do.
Yeah, it's like, and then so I got caught up in, like you guys talked about, just like, oh, we should clear this area down here before moving on to the next area because I don't want to forget about something down here and I want to cross things off the list. So it was a new experience for me being imported into this world where I have this open map, open world to explore and never have done a game like this before. It's like, oh, let's finish this before we move on. And so I have completely forgotten what the whole story is about. I have no idea where we are. And so it's like, because with D3, it's like, oh, this is clear cut. This is what's happening. This is what we're doing. But D4, it's like Casey, Joey have talked about, it's like, oh, dungeon. Let's level up here. Let's keep doing these different things to level up.
We spent our first 40 hours with this game playing together completely in Act 1. Like, we accomplished virtually nothing except for leveling up, and I had a ball with it through that window. Yeah. Jimmer, how did you approach the moment-to-moment gameplay? Did you mainline this? Like, you're the only one of us that's completed the story so far, so how did you approach D4?
Yeah, so I started off. I was going through every side quest that the game offered, and it offers a ton, and you level up, but you're not moving anywhere. And eventually I said, enough with that. I'm mainlining the story. I was recommended mainline the story to get it over with. And that's what I did. Just bypass everything, just get through the story. And that basically got you to the level, to at least close enough to level cap. So that was my approach to it. And I took down notes of things to say. Joey was mentioning, Diablo 2, he runs around and you identify the rectangle that lays out the current area, but you got to find the exit. And it just made me realize right then when he said that, like, Diablo 1, 2, 3 are all procedurally generated. Every time you play, you're going to get something random. It's not spectacularly random, but it is random. In D4, it provided me, here's Kielvishad, here's the map that you're using, and everything is already there, and it made it uninteresting to me. So.
Interesting. So you hated this game with a burning fiery passion because it wasn't procedurally generated.
Exactly, 100%. Only reason.
Huh. Well, my brain just exploded.
Yeah, I was going to say, you just blew his mind, Joe.
Yeah. Well, I'll just keep reading down what I wrote down on the paper because I'm not capable of a rebuttal. D4 lets you adventure on your own or in groups of up to 4 players. Burns, did you enjoy the single or multiplayer more, and how did the multiplayer in D4 stack up with some of the other games we played for OIO?
So Diablo 4 is probably the Diablo game I've played the most solo. I'm pretty sure I messed around with Diablo 1 a lot, a solo, but I played through the majority of that game like with friends at a LAN party over like a 36-hour period. And same thing with Diablo 2. Just mowed through everything in that same way. In a LAN party. Then Diablo 3, it was you, me, and Lance playing through, or me and Lance playing through, depending upon, I had 2 different characters, and we were kind of playing as groups, because we were maybe going to do it as a episode of Gamecast before that fell apart way long ago. Yeah, so this one I've actually played a lot solo. I will say, though, that the multiplayer so far has been pretty solid. Like, it still has that same problem where if you're doing main story stuff, sure, it does actually allow you to have the time to go through it, and depending upon who's initiating the quest, as long as they don't skip it, other people can watch the things or something like that. I can't remember where those instances have come down, but ultimately it's worked really well. We've only had a very few issues with disconnections or something like that. The most complicated thing was just getting it set up so that, we could all connect into Discord and talk, since Casey's playing on Xbox and most of us are playing on PlayStation and Jim's playing on PC. And so it's just one of those things where that was probably one of the trickier things to get figured out. You've probably had a lot more issues with that than we have.
Well, I just thought it was interesting trying to explain the difference to Casey between seasonal and eternal characters.
That was
kind of mad at.
Yeah.
I still don't know, but yeah, I'm kind of mad that I made a seasonal character now, knowing that all the hard work that I made, and now my level 45, not even story complete character is about to be deleted in 10 days.
Well, he won't be deleted. He'll just move into the Eternal Realm, and a new season will start, and you can create a new seasonal character to get all of the seasonal benefits. You can buy your battle pass, get your fancy lobster hat, and it's a great time.
And go.
That's not so bad then.
Yeah, so it's the blood stuff that's going on right now. That's the only stuff that's seasonal specific. Otherwise, you'll be able to do all sorts of other things once your character goes to the Eternal Realm. It's just there's going to be new events for Season 3 when that comes out that are going to be different than the blood stuff. Because this is the season of blood. Blood.
I want to make a point here that we have been playing cross-play because Casey's on Xbox, generally on Xbox One. Phoenix and me are on the same PlayStation account. Phoenix doesn't have a PlayStation Online account. We just were able to play Coach Co-op with you guys just off of mine, which is awesome. Joey's also on PlayStation. Jim's on PC. Ryan jumped in on PlayStation. The crossplay works really well, and it's a little wonky using Discord and getting Discord sunk to your console so that we can actually talk to each other. But all in all, the fact that we're able to play on all these different consoles is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did a really good job with it. And a lot of the other multiplayer games that we've played, it feels like we had a lot more issues from time to time. Like Avengers, the broken tech demo that was Tom's favorite game of all time. There was times where someone would just get disconnected and there was no way to get them connected back in. I think Outriders, we had some issues from time to time as well. But this has been super seamless so far. Knock on wood.
And Jimmer Jammer, you played mostly LAN, I'm guessing, on PC with your wife?
It's same as everybody else. You just join the online session and group up. Still the same. But continues to work seamlessly. I think the one thing you guys really haven't mentioned about multiplayer that really worked out well with D4 is that everything level matches to your character. So I joined up with you guys starting a fresh character, and you guys are level 30. I'm not dragging you down. I'm not slowing you down. I'm able to participate. And so it's not I got too far ahead. Now I got to stop playing for a week while my buddies catch up. No, you just as you would say, grip it and rip it. And I think that worked really well. I don't like the I don't like the way the level scaling worked in the game, but for multiplayer, it actually made it work really well. And making me think about it makes me think that feature is better than I had originally thought.
I guess the only down point we had for the multiplayer was with Brian.
I mean, I don't really want to throw Brian under the bus here, but to summarize, Brian didn't want to create a new character to play with us, which is fine. He liked his character. He knew how it worked and all that. That's fine. But we created new characters, and we stumbled onto a stronghold, and he insisted that we keep trying to do this stronghold. And Phoenix and Joey and I were all brand new characters, and it just wasn't happening. And we were dying over and over again.
Yeah.
Joey, I think you said that was the most fun you've had with video games. Did I write that down right?
I mean, it wasn't that bad. It's just
You left, dude. You just walked out.
Well, okay. Well, so because Brian was like level 47 or some crap like that. You guys are both level 10. I was level 2, and it was like I'd literally go in against like the weakest thing in the stronghold, and I'd have to hit it like 30 times to kill it, at least 30 times. And so it was just like, I could just sit here and keep wailing on the same one person and dying over and over again, or I could just walk outside the stronghold and level, like in a realistic fashion, and that's what I did, and that went well. I actually gained a few levels and kind of got a little bit closer to where you guys were at during that time.
And we took two different approaches to that situation, because I was saying, maybe we should go on. Do we want to try a story quest? We want to do another dungeon. I was trying to push the group to do something else. Brian's like, no, we got this. And then Joey just doesn't say anything. Just quiet quits. Just, zoop, I'm out of here. Like, I look on the map and I'm like, yeah, there's a yellow dot way down there.
I wasn't far away from you guys. I was just outside.
Just riding the experience train.
But overall... overall, I would say I agree with Jim that online, it has made things sort of playable if you're at different levels, because I'm a little bit below you. Casey's above us, and I haven't really felt like I'm really struggling that hard when we've done a boss fight or anything. So from my experience, it's been not challenging when we've all been different levels. So that's been a unique experience to be able to play, even though some of you guys are a little bit above me at the time. So,
well, we'll get to Casey here in a second, but Phoenix, I specifically wrote down something you said here, that you hate Diablo IV with a burning, fiery passion, and you would never play it on your own.
You just because I made one comment, you're just like, okay, she hates it with a burning fire passion every time I say something.
Yeah,
like,
so it's true. You hate it.
I don't. Like the movie Everything Everywhere Ever Once. I just started to critique it, and you're just like, oh, you hate it. You hate it.
Yeah, it was an awesome movie, and you hated it. Like, I'm on the right side on this one, right, guys?
You need
Absolutely.
to watch more Asian films. You two guys, you guys need to watch more Russian and Asian films before you start saying things.
Yep,
but
it
no,
was a timeless classic for the ages.
I would say that no, I really have enjoyed D4. I don't think I would ever play it on my own. I just enjoy doing the couch experience with you. But yeah, playing on my own, I guess with the kids being at a young age, I don't see myself jumping on and doing it myself. So.
Yeah, and to be fair, you don't really play any video games on your own. It's not like you'd have a free moment. You're like, I'm going to jump on the PS5. Come on, get the heck off that thing.
Yes. No, I just, I just don't think I would on my own.
And I want to point out something here, too. This is a big step outside your comfort zone, because, like, you've played a lot of games with me, but you have never played in, like, a foursome, like, in the OiO community like this.
No.
Like, with a headset in and, like, on a group chat with other people. So, like, that's a big step out of your comfort zone. What is that experience for?
Well, it was interesting, because I've never done, like you said, have the headset in, played with friends online with the game before. And
but you do live with the commentary, so you're kind of...
I've sat at the table, watercolor painting, listening to Tom's side of the conversation a lot of times.
Which is always awesome.
Yeah. So it was interesting to actually be plugged in to listen and be part of the group. And, it is interesting. I like how it is able to bring us all together without having to all try to cram on a couch together to try to play. And so
You're saying that you wouldn't sit on a couch with me and Joey and Casey and Jim all at the same time, honey?
It'd be a little tight. And so
It would be cozy.
It'd be cozy. But it's a nice glimpse into your guys' world as far as you guys plugging in and being able to play with friends. I've heard stories back in the days of college where you guys would bring all your computers over and play, I don't know, was it GoldenEye or something? But it's nice to be able to experience something like this, to be able to feel like I'm part of a big gaming group, because I'm getting more and more experience with gaming, but it's nice to be able to actually experience an online gaming like this. So
Yeah, you just wait until our girls can wipe their own butts, honey. Then we'll be like up all night playing Diablo. It'll be awesome. Casey, you have been playing both solo and in groups. You've put a lot of time into this game so far. Do you prefer the solo or the multiplayer gameplay?
Both have their strengths. I really like playing solo for the main storyline because I just think it flows way better.
And you don't have to listen to me talk over everything?
Well, no, it's just like that's the actual story, is your character going through these experiences. So like when you're with a group of people and they're all kind of going through the same thing, it doesn't make as much sense. It's just kind of disjointed, discombobulated, and doesn't actually fit true to the story. So, but the multiplayer is awesome, and I have a blast playing with you guys. And like, I prefer when we're in the groups to do more dungeon crawling and just exploring of the map and fighting, world events and doing that sort of thing. And I think that's where the multiplayer shines, even though like playing with 4 people can definitely get a little chaotic when we're all running through a dungeon and it's just
oh yeah.
it got kind of wild last times when they're just, especially like when I opened that chest and it was just mob after mob after mob after mob coming, and we're all in there, and it's like the screen is just full of life bars, and like it's like, what in the heck is going on? And then it ends and there's just treasure and gold everywhere.
Yeah. That's the full 4-player Diablo experience. It's kind of always been. I mean, there's a lot more effects in this one, so it's even that much more of an overload. But when you would, even like in Diablo 1 and 2, when you're playing with other people, or Diablo 2 when you're playing with other people for sure, like things would still get hectic when you get into big battles like that. So it's just even more so now.
Yeah, and it balances really well. It's super chaotic, and the multiplayer experience is just awesome with D4. The story has you chasing after Lilith, the demon on the cover of the game, as she attempts to launch her master plan. Staying spoiler-free, Phoenix, are you invested in the story?
No.
Okay. The end.
Well, I would like to be, but no, because experience a world map for the first time, wanting to check things off, diving into events and strongholds and dungeons. It's like, I forgot about the story completely. So it's like, oh, what's going on? So at this point, no, but we should dive into the story more.
Yeah, and I think what I've experienced so far is fine. I like Lilith. I'm interested to learn what she's doing. Jimmer, where do you come in on the story? Like, does it come to a satisfying conclusion is my biggest question for you.
Well, I'm not going to answer that because you told me not to.
Well, I said spoiler free.
My big thing was, who is Lilith? Have we met her before? Are we supposed to know anything about her at all? Because she comes in and trying to stay spoiler free here. But she's a bad person and up to no good, clearly. But like, it just kind of expects you to know that or know who she is. Whereas like previously, the baddies you encountered, there was some sort of background to them where Lilith is just like, all right, she's here and she's bad.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Well, I mean, Diablo is Diablo. Everyone probably with any knowledge of Christianity knows who Diablo is, but Lilith is a new character. I thought they set her up really well early in the story. Casey, apparently Phoenix and Jim both hate the story with a burning fiery passion. Are you with them, or are you more on the Tom side?
I'm
of neutrality,
for sure. No, I mean everything that I've experienced so far, I really like just from that opening cutscene to where, they're in that dungeon and the one guy is enchanting and trying, and then they end up going through like, this isn't too much of a spoiler. You're going to experience this in the first 2 minutes of the game if you play it. But I was hooked from there. And maybe part of it is that I don't have any Diablo background, so I have no knowledge of previous stories. So for all I knew, Lilith wasn't the old ones, but clearly she wasn't. So that's even more cool because I'm experiencing a new character for the first time, just like everybody else. What I really like kind of in this game too is the environmental storytelling, where as you're going into these different towns, seeing how the NPCs and everything are being affected by what's going on, and these like mini side quests and stuff, how you are helping them kind of come out of their funk a little bit. Some of them anyway, some of them you drive them deeper into desperation, but it's just kind of really cool how they play with that, and seeing how the story and the narrative just fits with all these different minor characters that you're experiencing along the way.
For clarity, are you invested in every one of the side quests that you're doing?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I sit and listen to it, and then you run out, you do the quest, you go back to them, and then you see what happens when you fulfill that quest. I'm not doing them all, because I'm trying to get more into the mainline story, and if you do every single side quest, you're never going to be able to get through that. I mean, you would, but it's going to take you hundreds of hours before you get through all of that. But no, I really do like a lot of all the little side story intricacies that they give you throughout the game.
Well, I'm interested in Jim's take on this because, Burns, I know how you approach games. I imagine you're the exact same way, digesting every word that those NPCs have to say. What I do, and what by proxy Phoenix has to do, is I collect all those blue check marks. I collect every single one I can get my hands on. I open up the map. I'm like, oh, here's where the biggest concentration of them is. Let's go knock them out. Boop, 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 boop. Let's warp back. Let's turn them in. Don't care what they have to say. Skip, skip, skip. Give me my XP. Let's roll on to the next thing.
Oh, jeez.
Is that just
Painful
like MMO
so many
fatigue,
ways.
or is that just Tom being overly aggressive?
I think it's a little aggressive. Some people put a whole lot of time into that little side nugget that you're just completely ignoring, Tom.
Yeah, I paid $70 for it. So I feel like we both held up our end of the transactional bargain. They gave me a thing to do. I did it. I don't care what they have to say. Jimmer, am I crazy here?
No, you're 100% correct. Like, I've listened to a few of them. I'm like, I don't know who you are and what you're talking about. You are inconsequential to the grand scheme of things. I don't care. I don't want to listen to your voice acting, except for Lorath, because that guy's voice is awesome. But the rest of them, skip, skip, skip. Get me going. Playing with you guys, you played so slow. It was so hard to adjust. There was one point where you guys joined in. I was like, oh, okay, they're on this quest. And I just ran to where I knew the quest was going to be. And then you guys were like, oh, somebody found it. You guys didn't know where you were going. I was okay. Just slow down, let them experience. And then I saw that Tom was jumping ahead, skip, skip, skip. All right, I'm following along. But I didn't want to ruin anything for somebody that wanted to follow the story.
Well, Phoenix, we're split 2-2. Who's right on the side quests?
Well, you know me. I hate reading. You have to blame Mario for that for me. Well, I have to blame Mario for that because playing Mario, it's like skip, skip. I can't read this, skip, skip, because I just don't want to take the time to read it. So ever since playing Mario, I'm just like any video game. I'm not going to read this. Skip, skip. So sorry.
So there you go, Joey and Casey. You are playing it wrong.
Well, the one thing I will say, though, I mean, at some point I will experience all the side quests, and at some point I will, listen to what's going on with that. Right now, I'm not even touching any of the side quests because I don't need to. I'm already maxing out the renown in each of the zones that I'm in just from the other stuff that I'm finding and doing. And so it's I'm just going to leave the side quests until I'm not going through the main story with the character, and then use that as a mechanism to gain XP on that character instead. It just feels like it's probably the best way to go about it. The little bits of side quests that I did do I feel like they serve the purpose that like a lot of MMO side quests do, where it's like it's giving you the flavor of this like area or this region or like what's happening to this specific town, which I think is good storytelling and it's fun if that's what you're looking for. I can understand people, yeah, let's just get through this. Let's get the shinies that I want at the end of it, and that's that.
I guess from maybe our perspective, and I don't want to speak for Jim, we have young kids, and so
ain't nobody got time for that.
we just have a few, hours to maybe fit in here and there, and you want to share this with me, and we just want to skip through things because we want to keep playing and leveling up and trying to push through to the end of the game because we'd like to finish this game, but we don't.
We're gonna finish it.
It's just our time is kind of limited with kids, bedtime, and the podcast too does take a bit of our time to get everything ready for each episode. So I hate to blame that completely, but it does play a factor when we have maybe only 2 hours set aside to maybe play. It's just like skip, let's move on to the next thing. So
even given infinite time, though, with all the time in the world, sorry, Burns, I'll give you a chance to rebut in just a second. Even with infinite time, I don't know if I would read all of these.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like, I want the rewards. I want the XP, specifically the gold and like the caches secondarily. But even with infinite time, I don't think I would read them all.
Okay.
Probably digest more of them.
And I completely understand those perspectives, and there's no wrong way to play a game. Like, as long as you're enjoying it, like, that's all that matters. I will say one of my favorite points was when Casey grabbed that one side quest and that one guy was just following us around for 2 hours because we never went to do the thing that he needed to take the person to do. So he's just, we got this extra person just tailing around, hitting things every now and again or running away. And that was pretty fun.
Mix in with all his skeletons, it was great.
Yes, it all blended together.
Well, speaking of experience and leveling up, Phoenix, you were somewhat overwhelmed by the skill tree when we started playing. How much of a change is it going from D3 to Diablo 4?
With D3 being my first Diablo game, it was kind of nice because as far as what I've heard you talk about, they've streamlined everything. So I was able to choose a little bit, skills here and there, but it gave me a directions where
it's kind of like you level up, here's your new thing, and then like you equip the new thing, it's like, oh cool, now I'm throwing exploding frogs. This game is awesome.
Well, and you could go back to an old skill. You didn't have to stick with the new one, and I guess you can do that with this game as well, but it's just, I don't know, I just felt I didn't feel overwhelmed where I feel like with D4. It's just the skill tree is so expanse and so much to it, and you have to read every little thing, and it was hard for me to go online to just look at a druid build because I felt like that was cheating. Like, that's not what a true gamer does. But I ended up finally doing it because it's just like, I just don't want to spend time trying to figure it out, doing lots of reading on what would be the best build. And so for me, I had to finally look and find something that I could try and see if I liked it. Which I am enjoying the one tree build with the one that we're playing, just the two of us. And so it's been helpful, but I guess I did enjoy how D3 did it. I guess it was more streamlined in a sense. So I guess that was better for me. So.
Then Casey, you also ended up using a guide. Like, what were your thoughts on the skill tree, having never played a Diablo game before, and like suddenly you're putting points in this tree, all these different branches are opening up, there's all these synergies and things that tie into each other. Like, how did you approach advancing your character?
Oh yeah, it was extremely overwhelming for me when I first looked at it and just saw everything that went off of it. So I am not a real gamer because I was not ashamed to use a guide.
I'm going to jump in for a second. There's a reason why these websites exist, like Wowhead and all these other places. Like, real gamers do. They go for the meta build. As meta as it can get, they're going to, like, do it. So don't say that to yourselves because there's lots of gamers that's how they approach the game. So
would that actually make Casey the real gamer and Joey and me and probably Jim not real gamers? Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I had Icy Veins open like the minute I created my character. Tell me what points I'm putting into and where. what makes a leveling build work. No shame in it. That's ARPGs are for that. Like the fun stuff is the end game. Get there. Don't you can level up and play around with what abilities are there to learn what you like and what you don't. But like, no, don't spend too much time on it. But overall, I think D3 they tried to simplify the tech tree or the skill tree, and they just watered it down to the point it was boring. So D4 really opened it up with their skill tree, but also made it in a format that was like clear when you were selecting abilities, what kind of their purpose was, and laid it out nicely. I think they did a great job with that board. You guys haven't seen the Paragon boards yet? That's a different nightmare. 100% use the guide once you reach Paragon points. Sorry, I went taboo.
Yeah. Oh, and that's like, to your point, that's kind of why I decided to like right away start using a guide, because there's so much other stuff in this game that I know me, and that if I'm trying to build this great character, I'm going to spend so much stinking time on the skill tree and trying to min-max the Jesus out of it anyways, that I might as well just let somebody else do it and enjoy the game as I'm playing, instead of worrying about, am I having the right skill? You know, do I have the right passive set with the right, you know, build that I want to go? Like, it's somebody else did it for me, so I might as well just follow it. Say, all right, I hit level 44. Where does the skill point go? Okay, boop, there you go. Let's go kill some more stuff.
That's interesting. Joey and I took a more hardcore / less efficient approach and tinkered with a lot of our builds ourselves. Burns, what were a couple of the different things that you tried out?
I mean, I'll agree with Jim. I really like the way that they laid out the skill trees, and just the sheer amount of options that you have.
After playing D3, like, I cannot tell you how excited I was when I got my first skill point. I'm like, oh god, it's D2 again! Oh, it's D2, but like 1,000 times better! This is perfect!
Yeah, it's pretty great. And so the first character I was playing through was a sorceress, and since I was playing around as a sorcerer in D2, and doing a lot with like the lightning skills, I was just like, I'm just going to go down the lightning path. And you still have options. Like, there's at some step in all of them, even if you're going down a specific like path, which there's like each class tends to have like 3 different paths, it seems like. You still tend to have options at certain levels where it's like, oh, you have this lightning ability or this lightning ability. Which one do you want to do over the other one? Or you could, like Tom did at one point, add in like all 4 of your abilities at the first level and just have like a bunch of buttons that you can hit right away. You know, so I think there's lots of different ways that you can approach it and play it, which I think is awesome. So yeah, I've really enjoyed doing the lightning build so far with Sorcerer. Yeah, that's been a lot of fun. You have to be like, there's a lot of mobility that you have to do because you have to run around and pick up all your crackle energy, because then you're just putting out more damage passively as you're doing that. But seeing you play like the Fire Sorcerer, like, that just seems like it's quite a bit different as to how you approach things and what you're doing with that. And so I think that's really neat. Barbarian, I don't think I have a very good build right now, because I just don't feel like I'm putting out like any damage until I throw my ultimate down. So I probably have to tinker or maybe look at a guide to fix that, because it's pretty all over the place.
Casey,
not very powerful.
Casey, would you like to weigh in on with your thoughts on ultimate abilities?
They are overrated, as are golems.
You take a strange approach to games, my friends. My friend, Casey, specifically, I'm looking at you. A couple of things, like, I love tinkering with the different characters and trying different builds out. Some of the builds that I've come up with just on my own, I did a shadow-based necromancer, I did a fire-based sorcerer, I made an emotional support barbarian, and I made a trap-focused rogue. And I love tinkering with these different specialties. Yeah,
and I think one of the best things about this that we haven't mentioned yet is that you can respec like pretty freely. It's like, it just costs you some gold, and once you get deep enough down into the game, like, you have gold for days. And so it's one of those things where if you don't like something, you just de-spec out of those points and respec into something else, and you're instantly trying something different, which I think is which I think is awesome in this game also.
Yeah, I agree. It's very easy to change up your build. It's like, I'm having fun with my fire sorcerer, but if I want to try cold or lightning, it's like, hold down square. All my points are refunded. It's like, all right. Ow! Hello, cat. My cat just punctured my leg. Thank you, Bear.
Well, I do have to say your ultimate for your fire sorcerer is pretty awesome.
Yeah, all the ultimates are awesome. They're all powerful abilities that you should be firing off regularly on a cooldown. And I don't care what your build guide says online, you need to use an ultimate. You need to use an ultimate. It's called an ultimate skill because it's the ultimate, like, powerful ability, the most powerful arrow that you have in your toolbox, in your quiver, in your arsenal, like...
Jim, do you use your ultimate?
With my sorcerer, I don't think I've unlocked the ultimate yet, but a close to ultimate one, yes. The druid, the leveling build, no.
Really?
The core revolve, I didn't touch an ultimate.
Okay.
This game is weird.
Yeah.
This game doesn't make any sense. Casey's, for crying out loud, playing a necromancer that doesn't use undead minions. And Casey, you love this game. What stands out to you about playing the necro, and why do you like this build so much?
Yeah, right now I'm using what's called a Sever Necro, and mainly I'm to the point now where I'm just using 3 buttons, essentially. But basically what it is you use a skill called Sever, which hits a target and it makes a target vulnerable, which adds a damage bonus. And then the other skill that I'm using constantly is Corpse Explosion. So as I'm hitting enemies, it's dropping corpses onto the ground, like you're cleaving flesh and it's causing corpses. And then I use Corpse Explosion, which does massive amounts of damage. So it's just repeating those over and over again. Sever, main attack, Corpse Explosion. So it's just that's all it is. I don't have to do anything else because I'm just constantly dealing out these massive amounts of damage to everything that's coming at me. And in the meantime, I also am, if I get hit by a big attack or something and it drops me down to below half-life, I'm able to use a pot, and the Corpse Explosion, what it has, it's refilling my life and my essence at the same time. So essence is basically the Necromancer mana, which uses everything besides your main attack to use. So it's, I don't know, like right now, I don't know if I'm over leveled for the story or what, but I'm at a point where I can beat dungeon bosses and the story bosses in pretty much 2 to 3 minutes with this build, and I'm not using any of my you said I'm not using my golem, I'm not using anything besides those 3 skills. But in the beginning, and that's what's kind of cool about it, is like the evolution of the character, where in the beginning I had to rely a lot more on my minions. Now I only use skeletal mages, and I really probably wouldn't even have to use those, but they're helpful, or you can do shadow damage, which can freeze or stun enemies, or you can set them as cold too, which would then freeze enemies instead of stun them, and apply different status effects and things, which is nice. So right now I'm still using them, but eventually I'll get to a point where I don't have to use them. And the thing is too, once I mainline the story and I get past, I'm assuming Lilith is obviously probably going to be the end one. So after I beat her and get kind of into more of the Paragon build, I'm going to be switching everything from my Sever Necro into, I was talking to Joey about it the other day, where it's called an Infinimist Necro, where then you actually do use your ultimate more. So Blood Mist is what I'm using right now as my ultimate. So eventually I'll be using Blood Mist a lot more. But the build that I selected was made for specifically leveling up quickly and kind of getting to that, and just ease of play. Like, it's made to do whatever you want to do in the game. Like, you should be able to handle whatever the game throws at you with ease with this build, and it's been very good. Like, I can just go into anything, and besides the stronghold that I struggled with when I was talking to you guys, like, holy crap, these strongholds are really tough. Well, I just had to get a few more points into a couple different things on my skill tree, and I walked through those strongholds like they were nothing. like a few days later when I played against it. So it was, and like I said, I'm to a point now where it's almost easy mode, which kind of sucks. Like I like things to be a little bit difficult, but I shouldn't be going to dungeons and just like having no issue clearing anything at all. So hopefully as the story keeps progressing, I'm getting into a little bit tougher content and some things are a little bit more challenging. But right now, yeah, I'm just mowing stuff down, and it's really, really fun.
Talking about skill tree, I was just wondering about for Joey, and it's a sorcerer, right? That you have that extra skill tree that you guys can actually.
Yeah, it's not exactly a skill tree. It's called enchantments. It's a class-specific ability for sorcerers where you get to choose 2 of your skills and use an enchantment bonus off of them. For instance, mine summons a Hydra that shoots fire at enemies, and then the other one randomly drops meteors on enemies.
I guess the question is to you, Jim and Joey, are you guys enjoying that added benefit when you're playing the sorcerer as far as having the extra little nuance to tweak something in that gameplay as far as improving your skill?
Jim, have you unlocked the sorcerer class quest yet?
Yeah, so I did the class quest for the sorcerer, and Icy Veins told me take Fireball, which I'm a lightning sorcerer. I'm like, why am I taking Fireball? On kill, the dying enemy launches a Fireball at the next enemy. So I teleport in, I do 1 cleaving melee attack, and it kills 1 enemy and hurts the others. That one explodes into a Fireball, which hits somebody else, which is already low health, so they die. So then they explode into a Fireball, which hits the next guy. Boom, onto the next group of mobs. Like, I just want density, as many mobs as I can, because of this chain reaction. It works great. Whereas the class skill for the druid, you pick. Can I talk about the druid?
Sure. Yeah.
You pick like from 4 different animals, and they each offer different sets of abilities, and the whole leveling build based off of that one was one of the abilities that lets one of your abilities have a chance to reset its cooldown on hit or on crit. So again, it was all about getting this density, as many mobs as you could, which was annoying because my wife would come in and start killing them one at a time, and I wouldn't have many to hit. But I wanted as many as I could for a chance to hit this activation, which would reset this cooldown. Otherwise, I found myself stuck waiting 30 seconds for a cooldown on like the one ability that I care about.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say that. Go ahead, Burns.
I was gonna say the enhancements. So I did our enchantments. I did 1 when I finished the class quest, and I think you unlock another slot for it down the line, or maybe I didn't have enough to put one in there. I think I only have 1 active right now on my sorcerer because I just completely forgot about it till Tom mentioned it the last time we played. So I have to look at that again on my sorcerer and see what I can add in there for that.
And each one of the classes has their own class quest that unlocks a special extra thing for it. Like, I forget what it is with my rogue. Oh, my rogue gives me 3 different ways that I can like specialize. I can build up combo points. If I hit enemies consecutively, then I can trigger more powerful secondary effects on my different abilities. Casey, what is it with the Necro? Is it the Golem is the class-specific quest?
Yeah, which I never used, not one time.
Yeah, you play games.
Have not summoned a Golem.
You play games. How you play
either.
For barbarians, it's weapon mastery. So the different types of weapons that you can equip, the more you use different types of weapons, the stronger you are with them. Is basically how that works. So basically, if you're using a staff, or if you're using a sword, or if you're using a mace or whatever, the more you use each type of weapon, the stronger you are with them. So that's kind of how that their special ability works.
Yeah, all of the like class specific abilities are really cool. Burns, what are your thoughts on the overall build options for the different classes?
Yeah, it's and I kind of mentioned that before. I think it is neat that you have all of these different paths that you can go down, and how it seems to change how your character plays. So like, at least it seems like with the lightning, the way that I spec with lightning sorcerer, there's a lot more of like you have to be moving around, collecting your crackle energy, so that you're just pumping out more passive damage. And then with cold, it's all about like stopping enemies, so then they're not coming at you and protecting yourself. And then fire, you're just burning everything, from what I could tell from what you're doing, Tom. But it's interesting because I think it changes the way you approach the class for each of those. Same thing with a little bit that I dabbled with the rogue. Like, I could understand doing the trap stuff is probably quite a bit different than if you're doing a more melee focused or if you're doing a more range focused approach to it. So I think that's neat. Granted, then you're going to have the builds where it's like, well, the fastest way to level is just to do all this, and then, hey, you're all the way through it. And then when it gets to end game, it's just like, oh, okay, here's like the 2 meta builds, and nothing else matters.
Jim, you were disappointed by your time with the druid. How did that class fall short for you?
No, like I mentioned, it was based around trying to get this one ability to reset, and it was, if it resets, like, you're destroying things and working quick, and then if it doesn't, like, I would just stop and wait for it to come back down, because I couldn't walk into the next group and fight. Like, I could survive fighting them, but I wasn't going to hurt anyone. And so you're just kind of sitting around waiting. So that just, I don't know, it proved boring.
Phoenix, you're on the other side of the coin with the druids. What did you like about the druid builds that you played?
So far, it's been... I've been enjoying the one that I found from the one site, that it's just you and me with the rogue and the druid. And the build so far has been working well for me, and I just get right in the middle and start wailing away. The one that I'm doing with the internal, or the seasonal, I'm having a hard time with it. It's not as strong as I would like. I know part of the problem is the armor I'm getting. I'm just getting a lot of grays and blues every time we get loot. I'm not really getting a lot of yellows or legendaries, so I would like to get more armor to hopefully help maybe, but I maybe should tinker with the build a little bit more. I just don't feel as strong as I do with the other druid I'm playing. So
yeah, that's been a bummer about the seasonal character for you. If you could sit down with the developers of Diablo in a room, face to face, just like this, what's the one message you would tell them?
You want me to say it?
I want you to say it out loud.
Bring back the monk.
And the rest of the line.
Oh, you put that in.
Yeah, I know. It's going to sound very powerful coming from
cowards. You. Okay.
Yeah, bring back the monk, you cowards. I thought that each class had a very different feel. With the rogue, it almost felt like an MMO rotation. I was sprinting around the battlefield, laying down my traps, waiting for different cooldowns. With the sorcerer, I have a frenetic barrage, and I'm just waiting for my mana to refill so I can keep firing off my fire. With my barbarian, I charged right at the biggest groups, and I tried to stun everyone, to immobilize everyone for the group, and I'm really impressed by how each one of the different characters that I played has had such a different feel. As far as upgrading our characters, there are several ways to upgrade. You invest points in skill trees, you upgrade your gear, you transfer legendary abilities onto new gear, and you socket gems into gear. Did these upgrade systems work well together? Did they provide a true sense of progression?
So, to be honest, I've probably not paid attention to any of those systems in any way, shape, or form. I had one item where I like distilled it down to an aspect, but I haven't attached that to another item. I feel like it's one of those things where in a game like this, and I think we touched on it when we were talking about Diablo 2 some also, it's like, I have all these gems laying around, or I have like the stuff to make the gems, which in this one, it's different. You don't just find all these gems. You have like a separate component that has like the pieces, and then you mold them together into the gems. But it's like, I don't know, why would I socket something into an item if I'm just going to replace it in 3 levels? And so that's with like the leveling process. It's just like, I don't even know if it's worth it to shove something into the slot here, because I'm probably just going to find something better, or hopefully going to find something better soon. Not from the Obol merchants, because there's 6 straight times I purchased from them I got a blue or below, so those people can kick rocks. But otherwise, you tend to find enough stuff out in the environment that's just going to continue to improve. And so, I don't know. I just haven't found a need to really delve into those systems too much. Maybe that would help me put up more damage output and be more survivable. Maybe I do need to put more time into that. Elixirs are like the only things, and that's just because you guys keep reminding me. Otherwise, I completely forget about those too. So
part of the reason we're so slow and moving from thing to thing in the world is we're constantly hunting for plants to make more elixirs. But I wanted to jump to Jim here. Jim, you're the only one with the full picture of this game that's completed the base game and has some issues with it. Do you think that a lot of these systems are more for endgame type stuff, or do you think that we should be using them throughout our Diablo 4 experience?
They are absolutely for endgame stuff. And this whole artifact, taking artifact gear and extracting an aspect and imprinting aspects, like that's an endgame thing. And I think it's actually a really good system. But you're not going to touch it, and I do have my qualms with it. But I think it really improves endgame gear hunting. It makes it so yellows aren't worthless. D3, you get a yellow, you don't even glance at it at all. You don't care. D4, you get to take a yellow that has the stats you want and an artifact that has this ability you want, and you get to combine them. And you get to maximize your stats that way. It's an end game thing. Don't worry about it too much. But overall, that was a good system.
Awesome. Casey, your thoughts on the progression systems and how they intertwine?
Yeah, no, it's definitely kind of piggyback on what he said. I love the aspect, respecking things and doing that, but I didn't get into that until just recently, like really after I got level 40 and I started to get some of the really high, like all my equipment slots are legendary right now, which is, I don't know, like it didn't get to that until recently. So Phoenix holdout, I think as you level up even farther, the legendary drops come, so you're going to get there eventually and get some good equipment. Gems, Joey, like if you have them, you might as well use them. If you, when you bring your equipment to the blacksmith and salvage it? Is that it? If you salvage equipment that has a gem in it, the gems just pop out of their socket. You don't have to. They just drop back into your equipment again. So it's not.
Are you sure on that?
You lose the gems.
I thought you had to go to the jeweler to extract them, and then you could salvage the gear.
Yesterday, unless I did something different, but yesterday when I did that, because I thought, oh, whatever, because I've made gems now that are like the top of the line ones, and those ones I tried to save by unsocketing, and then the other day I had a bunch of like the super low level gems that were just like laying in my chest, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go and salvage all these. And when I salvaged them, gems appeared in my inventory.
Huh.
So maybe it seems buggy, like that shouldn't happen, and maybe I'm just imagining stuff, but there are ways to unsocket it. It just costs gold if you want to do that. But either way, like if I have a socket in one of my things, I usually just throw a gem in there, because I'm finding enough pieces of gems around the globe where even like the smaller ones, it doesn't matter. If you do salvage something and the gem goes away, it's not that big of a deal, but they do give you just a little bit of added bonus, which is good. And it's kind of like upgrading gear too at the blacksmith. If I get a new piece of gear, I upgrade it 2, sometimes 3 levels if it's a really awesome piece of legendary gear that I know I'm going to hold on to for a while and has some good aspects that I'm going to hold on to. I upgrade it 3 levels right away, because as
Casey,
you're wandering around and you're
hold on for a second.
Stuff.
Casey, Jim's shaking his head, and Joey wanted to insert a point first. Jim, do you want to make a snarky remark here?
No, you're good.
Okay, now Burns, you were trying to insert at one point?
Yeah, so the reason why I don't do the gems is because I do like the fact that you have like the small components of the gems that are just in like a side component pouch and don't actually take up a spot, so you don't have to like throw a bunch of the gems in your chest or whatever. So I probably won't create too many gems for that reason, just so that I don't, like in Diablo 2 especially, you don't have an entire chest slot that's just gems, and then like another one that's probably starting to fill up with gems too. I like the fact that they're just small chunks and I can build them up. With the upgrading, I only have 1.8 million gold and probably like 100 of all of the different materials. So I don't have enough to really upgrade any equipment. So
Okay, good. Wow, Scrooge McDuck over here.
And I know why Jim is shaking his head, because it is completely unnecessary. You don't have to upgrade to get to end game, but it does give you like just little bonuses. And if that system is there, I guess why wouldn't you do it? Because it doesn't take long, and you have so like Joey said, you have so much gold, you have so many materials, and you get all of that just from world exploring. So you kill a monster, you kill a beast of any kind, and usually it drops a little bit of leather. You don't really notice it, but it drops what you need to get that first little upgrade. It's leather, and you have thousands of the stuff, and it's never going to go away. So why wouldn't you use it? Like, it doesn't take long. So that's my thoughts on that. But I really like it, and I like the occultist and everything that it brings, like the ability to add aspects and, like you said, to add value to your gold colored gear, whatever it's called, and then being able to eventually remove some of the aspects once you get more into the end game material, end game content and add them to different types of gear. I just think that's really cool. Where in the beginning of the game, I was kind of afraid to salvage some of my stuff, like, oh, this is really good, and if you don't do that, you're going to end up on the bad side of the under leveling yourself, and you eventually have to get rid of some of that. And if you have a cool aspect that you really like that works well with the build that you're doing, then you're able to remove that and add it to a different piece of gear, I like that. I think it's really cool.
Plus, if you don't salvage the stuff, you're not going to get the transmog for it, so you can't look really cool.
Oh, you got a transmog. Like, looks are everything in this game. I mean, to summarize, there's a lot of cool systems for upgrading your character, whether it's speccing out your gear specifically or giving little boost to your gear. You can put sockets into unsocketed gear so that you can put gems into it. There's a lot to play with here, and it sounds like we all have a pretty positive outlook towards it, except for Jim saying, wait until endgame for your heavy upgrades. So pushing the conversation forward, Casey, your initial impressions on the overall package, having never played a Diablo game before.
I absolutely love it so far, and I should have played earlier Diablo games.
Yeah, we could have gone back to like the very start of our friendship, and like you could have brought your computer over, and we could have had a LAN party at my parents' house. It would have been great, dude.
Heck yeah.
All right, when we get a time machine, that's going to be the first stop to go back and play Diablo together in high school. It's going to be awesome. We'll tell Pat to pound sand.
That sounds
good. Phoenix, your initial impressions of the overall package?
So far, I'm enjoying it. It's nice to experience something a little different from D3, even though I love D3 so much. It's just nice to experience a game with more of an open world map.
This is like the first open world game you've ever really experienced.
And playing a game where the story is not streamlined, a lot of games that you and I have played, like Sackboy and everything is sort of streamlined in a sense. So it's been very eye-opening and very interesting for me to play a game that has a little bit more open world map and trying to figure out where to go next.
You just walked right into my trap, honey. Okay, now, the Earth is lava. The entire Earth is lava. Burns, you must feel relieved that this isn't being pushed on you. The entire Earth is lava, and the only way that we can continue life on Earth as we know it is to push either D4 or Sackboy's Big Adventure into the lava for all time. They're going away forever. We can never touch that game ever again.
Oh my gosh.
Which one's going in the lava? Well, I didn't ask D3. Like, I gave you that one at least. D4 versus Sackboy. Who's getting pushed into the magma, honey?
Probably Sackboy, because D4 would have more hours.
Yeah. And like, we love Sackboy. Like,
we do.
I'm putting words in your mouth again. Like, Sackboy is an awesome experience.
Yeah.
What were we talking about when I saw the opportunity?
I love Sackboy. You heard it here first.
I can't get enough Sackboy, man. If I could just get Casey to come over and give me the Logan technique while we play some Sackboy, like, it'll have an awesome night and I'll never sleep better. It'll be great.
Who would have thought the person that created Sausage Fest in college is the person that loves Sackboy?
What can I say? It's awesome being me, my dude. Burnsy, your initial impressions on the entire package.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying it so far. At this point, it feels like Diablo IV allows you to level up doing whatever it is that you want to do to level up, which I think is nice. It's a bit weird that the story is like so sprawled over and kind of a backseat to it. But it's one of those things also where once I go through it and I experience it, I probably won't touch the story and just, if I create a new character, just skip the story and just jump into whatever it is I want to do. So I don't know. I think that's cool. And I've been really been enjoying it so far. The level syncing is pretty nice. There's been a couple of times where I've hit like a little bit of a wall, but then like Casey kind of said, you get a couple more levels in a skill or two, and then it just feels like you breeze through stuff. So I don't know. I've really been enjoying it. Looking forward to playing more of it.
I agree. I mean, I'm 50 hours into this game, and I still have googly eyes for it. It's like when Phoenix and I are, like, I dial it down a little bit with you guys, but when Phoenix and I are playing together, I'm like, I love this game. Like every 4.5 minutes, I'm saying, this game is great. Why isn't this the game of the year? Why doesn't everybody love this game? So, Jim, here's your opportunity. Tell us why not everyone loves Diablo 4, because I have spent so much time on this game. I've accomplished nothing, but I've had a ball doing it.
So I think the big thing for me, ARPGs are fun at the end game. That's where things happen. That's where things get interesting. That's where you make a real build based on all the legendaries. You got all the aspects, all the pieces come into play, and that's where the fun happens. Now, the first time you play through, you get the story, and that's great. And if I could sit down with Diablo developers or ARPG developers, I would say, give me a maybe not single player mode, but multiplayer story mode where I do that story the first time. But then when I have to make a new character, a new season starts, do not ask me to play 40 hours to level up to level cap so that I can get to the fun part, because that's what I want to be doing. And if you want me to wait that long, I'm just going to go do something else because my time is limited.
So, Jim, if I could just poke at that for a second. So what I'm hearing is your main issue with the game is the seasonal format and needing to create a new seasonal character each time around. Like, you're just spending all that time leveling up to get to what you think is the fun stuff. That kind of appeals to me because, like, I like the journey and I like tinkering with the builds. So do you think that this game is just doomed and that you'll never enjoy your time with D4?
I think ARPGs have had their time in the sun for me, and as an adult with young kids and limited time, they've fallen off the radar, and that's like a me problem, not a game problem. But also, that was my point number one as to why I didn't like the game, not necessarily the main point.
Oh, then point number two?
Going straight apples to apples with D3. D3 gave you rifts. Rifts, you go into town, you walk into a rift, and it's just, here's a procedurally generated dungeon with loads and loads of monsters. There's more monsters, and there's a scaling difficulty that kept you going. But you stepped out, you step in, and you go. Diablo 4, you mount up, you run around, you find a group of like 5 guys, you kill them all. All right, now your mount's on cooldown, so you got to walk to the next group, kill 5 guys. It's just slow, and then you got to teleport between all the different towns and like get to the one that's closest to where you're going. I want to go fast, and this game doesn't go. It slows you down, and it drives me nuts. And the last and the final, the big problem, and again, this is coming back to D3, but where is Kadala? In Diablo 3, you go into these rifts, you collect these things called blood shards. You give it to this lady called Kadala, and she's like, here's some gear. Thanks for the blood shards. I don't know what blood shards are, but clearly she's up to no good. She has amassed thousands, millions of these blood shards. She's up to no good. I wanted her to do something. I wanted to find out that she was bad and that my Diablo 3 character empowered her. And I want to get, not revenge, because she hasn't done anything, so I can't get revenge, but I wanted to fight Kadala. I wanted her to be evil, and she's just gone. Oh, it makes me so mad.
Jimmer, I love you, and I consider you one of my best friends, but like that seems like a silly reason to hate D4, dude.
I want to fight Kadala.
What if Kadala is Lilith? That's the headcanon that explains it all. Now you love D4.
Yeah, all right. Well, thank you for fixing D4,
Then she
Burns.
should have been called Kadala. If she was called Kadala, at least she'd have a reason for existing. Not a lesser than lesser primeval.
Man, if only they had called
season 3 content.
If only they had called the blood petals blood shards.
I was just thinking about D3 and Jim walking through like the rifts and stuff. I found interesting with D4 with the events. I don't feel the pressure that you usually felt with D3 because D3 had the timer on, if I'm remembering this correctly, where you had a timer, you had to do everything in a certain amount of time so you can get that big, massive chest. And if you don't do it in that amount of time, you get the smaller chest. I feel like that's kind of missing in D4.
Well, D4 has a similar mechanic. There's always like a mastery thing for chests. Like if you slay all the enemies, generally you get the event reward.
Yeah.
But there's usually some other thing, whether it's a timer or protecting another person or accomplishing some other sub-objective. There's always something that gives you a mastery for you.
Well, the ones that we've done, we've always completed it, where D3, I always felt like it was a little harder. We had a harder time beating because there was more hordes of enemies. They were a little bit tougher, in my opinion, but I don't know. I just, Joey and Jim have played D3, but I felt like the events were a little bit harder in D3 versus D4. But
Clearly we've mastered Diablo, honey. Looking for a rebuttal? Seeing none? Oh, Jimmer.
I think with D3, it was the rifts were untimed, if I remember right, and then the greater rifts where you like had to pay to do pay some sort of currency. Those had the time limit, and it did add that like pressure to get things done, but also like that scaling difficulty that they had in there. So like you were constantly pushing yourself, even if you were just I'm doing another dungeon, like you were challenging yourself to the next level, see where you can get your character instead of just going.
Yeah.
So we all agree that D4 is a timeless classic. Shut up, Jim. Bernsey, what are you looking to accomplish in the next month with this game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to finishing the story. So that'll be nice to do. And then I'd like to start a new character then on the new season and do like at World Tier 3 or whatever, so that I can unlock all of the like bonuses for the different regions and mess around with a lot of that stuff. And so, yeah, I'm just looking forward to doing more things like that after I finish the story.
Casey, your ambitions for the next month before we record part 2 of this discussion?
Yeah, first thing is going to be finishing the story. And then just exploring that endgame content. Looking forward to taking on some nightmare dungeons and possibly creating some new characters and experiencing what they have to offer and their different builds with that is what I'm looking forward to.
Feeny?
Yeah, and I also want to try a hardcore character because I've never done that in a Diablo before. So see how long I can last. Probably get frustrated, die early, and then never do it again. But we'll see.
Yeah, I created several for the DT show, and like it was interesting, but like I lost one due to lag, and that kind of soured the entire experience for me. Feeny, your hopes and ambitions for the next month with this game?
I guess the same. Finishing the story, clearing out the map more, clearing more check marks off things. But it'd be awesome to survive the butcher.
Yeah, we wandered into the butcher. I don't even know how this system works, but like Phoenix and I were just in a random dungeon one time. We're walking down a hallway. All of a sudden, the butcher comes at us. He kills her in one hit. Like I'm playing my trap rogue, so I'm like, oh, trap, 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 run, 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 trap, trap, trap. I'm dead.
How about you, Jim? Did you take on the butcher yet, or?
I've taken him a few times and went toe to toe with him and like just chugging health potions while my wife, the rogue, is just bouncing back and forth. And I barely survived the fight. And she's like, what was the big deal? Because he never attacked her. He was attacking me. And then I've encountered him a handful of other times, and he just destroyed. Like, his power level is so much higher than anything else you'll ever face in that game. It's insane. He's overtuned.
I remember we were playing the game and there was a countdown that appeared that the butcher is going to appear in this, and you're like, I hope we're not here.
Yeah, I had it happen one time when I went down into one of those. I can't remember what they're called, but like the little mini, the cellars. I went down to a cellar and he was there. I was just like, "Nope," ran right out.
Hard pass.
Yep.
I want to finish the story. I want to Paragon level like a boss, and I want to check out the endgame content. Jim, or anything else you want to say in our part 1 discussion about Diablo 4?
No, I just want to kill Kadala, man. Really, really bad. And I want to level up quicker. I want to do a new character and get to endgame and do that.
Use a leveling build.
Oh, I do.
They're out there. Okay. You just want to go even quicker.
Absolutely.
Maybe
no
season
hesitation
3.
in using a guide.
Maybe season 3 they're gonna do that. They're gonna make it super fast, and then everything's gonna be all sunshine and rainbows.
Sunshine and rainbows. That's what we're all about here on Outsiders Overrated. Well, that is going to do it for our part 1 discussion on Diablo 4. We'll be back next month with our complete thoughts on the game, hopefully with our thoughts on the endgame content. Thank you so much for listening to this segment of Outsiders Overrated. Please support our show on Patreon at patreon.com/OiO. Until next month, stay inside, kids.